Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zolotech, and iOS 26.1 released to the public a few weeks ago, and iOS 26.2 Beta 3 released to developers a week ago, along with iOS 26.2 Public Beta 2 as well. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26.2 Beta 3 is out. What's new video? We'll talk about the latest Apple news, we've got a few new features to go over, and we'll talk about the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video, there's over 15,000 votes and 160 comments. I've gone through all the comments to determine what the experience is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, the iPhone Pocket sold out almost instantly worldwide, and since it's a limited edition, it doesn't seem that there'll be more. However, someone has already made very similar products available for a very inexpensive price. Apple released a new 2025 holiday ad on YouTube called The Critter Carol. It was completely filmed with iPhone 17 Pro, and they also posted a behind-the-scenes video as well. You can see it on their YouTube channel here. Now, iOS 27 is reportedly bringing a major focus to stability and performance over many new features and changes this next year when it's announced at WWDC 2026 in June. According to Mark Gurman this past week, he said that Apple is going to have a snow leopard year, and the main update will be refinement and overall performance and stability. A few updates are expected with things such as Apple Intelligence, but we're not expecting major changes like we've had year over year with hundreds and hundreds of new features. Now, we've heard this a little bit before, and we didn't hear, though, that it would be a snow leopard year. A few years back, when Apple had leopard or cat names for macOS, they had a snow leopard year, which was leopard. It was a little bit buggy, they refined it with Snow Leopard, and it was much, much better and more stable. It looks like Apple may be doing the exact same thing this year. Again, we've heard this a little bit before, but it looks like their focus has shifted to making it more stable. They're suffering through all the same visual glitches and bugs with iOS 26, so I would expect them to fix this as well. So hopefully they'll get it right and focus much better. Now, the new Siri update is still expected to be part of iOS 26.4 or around that version, so that won't be part of iOS 27. So we'll have a refined Siri version, maybe with the use of some Gemini models or models Google is working with Apple on, and they should again run on private cloud compute. So again, they should be fully private, but a little bit different, and hopefully very, very good. So we'll have to wait till about March next year to see what that's like. Apple this week is supporting Red to fight against AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. From Friday through December 7th, every purchase made using Apple Pay on Apple.com or in the Apple stores in the USA and some other countries, Apple is donating $5 to the Global Fund. Now, I know many of us appreciate this, but would love to see a red iPhone with support of this as well. So about mid-year, every previous year, for many years, we actually had different colors, maybe a red version that comes out mid-year of the following year. I would love to see that with the new iPhone. Maybe that's why we only have 3 iPhone colors this year, but I would love to see a new product red version, as I know many of you would as well. But let me know what you think of that in the comments below. Singapore this week is now ordering Apple to help curb spam on iMessage by filtering or blocking messages that impersonate government agencies, according to the Straits Times. So this is something I know many of us would love to see. They've started to do this with things such as filter spam, screen unknown senders, but they want this to be even more aggressive in Singapore. So maybe we'll see something like that very soon, as they want them to implement this or have Apple implement this in Singapore by December. So hopefully they can get even better spam filtering as well. Apple looks to be partnering with Intel again. They've made chips for many years, but this time around it's not for Intel chips, but rather manufacturing of Apple's own silicon designs. According to Ming-Chi Kuo this week, Apple is working with Intel to supply lower-end M-series chips as soon as 2027. So we could see something maybe such as the M6 in the future, the M7, instead of the Pro chipsets. So they could manufacture those in the United States, since they have a bunch of chip fabrication utilities available, and they're not manufacturing as many chips as they used to. So instead of making their own, they could be making some for Apple. Now, as far as new features, Apple CarPlay gets a couple new features in iOS 26.2. iOS 26.2, though, now allows more widget stacks on the screen at once. Tom Warren on X found that you can have 3 widget stacks side by side, where he was only able to see 2 with iOS 26.1 and iOS 26. We, of course, get the ability to remove pinned comments or pinned people from the top of messages within CarPlay with iOS 26.2, but it seems you can have more widget stacks as well this time around. As far as other new features, well, we already know about the AirDrop update. That's found under General and then AirDrop, and you can now AirDrop with contacts that are not in your contacts list with a code. So that's something that's been updated. There's updates to news. There's also that nice update to the level. So if we go into the level, within the level, they've got this new liquid glass design with diffraction, and it looks really great overall, and they've refined it. Maybe they'll refine it more with the next update. And it also seems that Apple Intelligence could be launching in China as well as part of iOS 26.2. This is based on a survey about Apple Intelligence on Apple's website in China. However, the form has since been removed, but I can show you where it was. So if we go into Safari, you can see here it says the page you're looking for can't be found, but the address is Apple Intelligence feedback, and it was asking about Apple Intelligence regarding privacy and more. So it definitely could launch very soon in China. They do have some language options, but the actual Apple Intelligence is not available there yet. So we could see this with iOS 26.2. Just like in Japan, we expect the option to change the side button to instead initiate Siri. You could change it to ChatGPT, maybe Gemini and others. Hopefully they'll bring that feature everywhere in the world in the future as well. When it comes to app updates this week, well, it seems like you can now transfer your playlists from things such as Apple Music directly into Spotify. So if you use Spotify and maybe you're using Apple Music or another music service, it can now import your direct playlist that you've already created. Also, if you use the app Pocket Casts has a major update now that supports smart playlists to help you organize. So smart playlists automatically gather episodes from podcasts that you follow based on the rules you set. For example, you can make a quick learn smart playlist, and it gathers episodes from your favorite shows and puts them into a playlist for you. So lots of updates here if you use this instead of using Apple Podcasts, as I know many people do. As this is cross-compatible with things such as Android and more, it's now available. Also in the latest update for WhatsApp, if you're a beta tester on WA Beta Info, you can see there's an update where it says WhatsApp now intends to offer iOS users the same reaction sticker feature that is already available on the Android version. So that's something that could be coming soon on iOS. So it looks like they're updating it with more and more features, and we should see that very soon. When it comes to the iPhone Air, the failure of its sales apparently have caused other Chinese manufacturers to reconsider their plans for creating similar devices. Foxconn, who supplies Apple with iPhone Air, has supposedly disassembled the iPhone Air production line, and others such as Xiaomi, Oppo, and others have either canceled their revisions that look similar or have just changed their plans altogether. So it looks like there's plenty of these available. I know quite a few people love the iPhone Air, including myself, but it's not selling that well due to its lack of second camera, which we could see in a future iteration, and also the battery. So of course that, along with just having one speaker. If they fix those three things, I think it would be a huge hit. When it comes to iPhone in general, however, the iPhone 17 lineup with the iPhone 17, 17 Pro, and iPhone 17 Pro Max have sold so well that they've reclaimed the top spot of the world's largest smartphone manufacturer, according to Counterpoint Research and Bloomberg. Samsung has been in the lead for 14 years, but now Apple has taken the spot back. So the iPhone is now the top-selling smartphone in the world, thanks to the new iPhone 17 lineup. So even though some people are not fans of the new camera plateau and the overall design of the iPhone 17, it seems that it's selling incredibly well. When it comes to releases this coming week, while we had a week off due to the Thanksgiving break in the United States, Apple even posted it in their Feedback app. So if we go into Feedback, you can see under Recent Activity, they had a Thanksgiving break where they'll return on December 1st. So based off of that, typically like we see every year, we could expect an update on December 1st or December 2nd. I would expect maybe iOS 26.2 RC at this point, or maybe even Beta 4, but if we get the RC, we could expect a public release as soon as December 8th. However, if we get Beta 4 on the 1st or 2nd, we could have the RC on the 8th or 9th, with a public release on the 15th. Either way, Apple has to release this before the 19th to comply with different rules that are in place starting in Japan. So we should see it in just a week or two. So that's what we can expect for that. I would not expect an iOS 26.1.1 since we're so close to iOS 26.2. You never know what Apple could do, but it seems unlikely at this point. After the public release of iOS 26.2, though, we could expect one more beta with iOS 26.3 Beta 1. We would have that typically as the last beta until the new year. Typically on January 5th or even the 12th, depending on when Apple returns after the holiday, that's when we could expect the next beta. So that's what we expect every year, and that seems likely this year as well. Now, when it comes to the experience of AirPods Pro 3, as I've been talking about it each week, my AirPods Pro 3, while I've been on vacation, that's why we have a little bit different background, the camera might look a little bit different, and my voice may sound a little bit different with the microphones, but overall, the experience with AirPods Pro 3 have been pretty good, but I did have one instance where I placed them in my ears and only one side connected. I then had to place them back in, close the case, reopen the case, and then it worked fine. So it seems like they haven't fully ironed out this issue, but let me know if it's been better for you. When it comes to iOS 18.7.2, well, I'm not going to mention a whole lot, but quite a few people just continue to say it's the best one out there. Pretty much 100% of the comments about battery and the overall stability and experience just say it's positive. I've yet to see really any negative comments about iOS 18.7.2, so it's a great experience overall. When it comes to iOS 26.1, well, it seems to go back and forth. So I'm running that on the iPhone Air that I have here, and the good things about it are basically general stability with no crashing, it's better battery than iOS 26.0.1, and also users on older iPhones, such as the iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 devices, seem to have less issues compared to iOS 26. Now, there are quite a few complaints. The top things have to do with liquid glass and the interface just glitching or being slow, having that ghosting issue with the control center when you swipe home, it sort of just blinks off the display, and also issues such as volume with the keyboard, input lag, predictive text issues, and many more. And if we go into notes, and maybe I type this is a new note, it seems nice and fast on the iPhone Air. However, sometimes when you press a letter, sometimes even though it's pressed, it will select the letter next to it. So if you press the letter H, sometimes it would press maybe G instead, even though it's notably showing the letter H. Hopefully Apple sees these videos as well as the one online showing exactly what's happening, works on the keyboard and corrects it, but it's definitely still an issue, it seems. Also, many complain about connectivity issues with random disconnects on Wi-Fi and even 5G. Now, I don't know if that's a carrier issue with 5G, but Wi-Fi has been pretty stable for me for the most part. I haven't really seen a whole lot of issues, so it could be specific routers or something like that, but overall it's been generally pretty good for me with that. Also, people complain about AirPods disconnecting. CarPlay has random disconnects for many still on 26.1, so again, that could go along with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Definitely some issues there, but why it's happening to specific things and not others, it's hard to say. When it comes to the iOS 26.2 Beta 3 experience, well, I've been using it full-time on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Overall, it's much smoother performance with occasional lag. Wireless seems to be better for many and older devices as well, and Apple CarPlay has far fewer disconnects. So I haven't really had many issues with iOS 26.2. I have heard a couple. Again, I've mentioned before, it seems to be GM vehicles and sometimes Honda for the most part. But once in a while, it will just disconnect. I have heard about it from my wife in 26.1, disconnecting on its own, and then it reconnects and it stays connected. But it seems to be less of an issue with 26.2. Also, the widget panel stutter, of course, has been fixed, as I mentioned before, so that's great, but there are still some bugs. For example, if you're using stacked widgets, they can be an issue for some, where they just go blank. The other issue is liquid glass still seems to have some glitches or errors, especially if you're using the clear icons, or maybe tinted icons. Sometimes they just fill in weird. You'll see there was a little lag there. They finally filled in, so there's definitely some odd issues and bugs here and there, depending on what you're using. Also, there's empty call history bugs, so if you're in your phone, so within the phone under recents, people are seeing just completely blank call histories for some reason. Thankfully, mine are showing up. I've seen it not show up and then show up again. Also, I've had multiple Resprings this time around, about 4 or so. I could just be doing something randomly, go into settings, all of a sudden it would respring, and then it would reboot the display, I'd unlock it, and it works fine again. So definitely some odd issues there. There's also some odd bugs for some people using the Fitness app. So in Fitness, maybe you go for a walk. Sometimes it's not adding it to your overall rings. So there seems to be some bugs there as well. Also, I've heard from quite a few people that screen mirroring is not working like you would expect. So if you're trying to screen mirror, sometimes it just doesn't work. So that seems to be one of the issues. Also, there's RAM management issues. For example, right before the video, I went into YouTube, and you'll see it's reloading again. So I went into YouTube, tried to show the overall statistics of the YouTube community poll, went back out, went to the Apple channel to show you the new ad, and it reloaded YouTube. Now it's done it again, so there's definitely some odd RAM management issues, so they need to optimize that. When it comes to the wallpaper bug, well, it's still here, but not as severe. So for example, on my lock screen, it's nice and vibrant. Swipe home, it desaturates a bit. However, some people are seeing it the opposite way around. So it could be dim here on the lock screen and vibrant on the home screen. It still seems to be a bug, and why it's there, we're not sure. But again, this could be part of the refinement with iOS 27. Hopefully they've seen this in these videos and many others. When it comes to performance, other than the general lag, everything seems to be pretty good. So occasionally you'll get lag on 26.1 here on the left, 26.2 beta 3 on the right, and if we go into the app library, things such as ProMotion seem to be nice and smooth. Still 120 Hertz for the most part, but again, occasional lag as it's loading things here and there. So there's definitely some refinements that are needed. When it comes to overall heat, well, it's been pretty good overall. Like I've mentioned, I've been on vacation. The 17 Pro Max has stayed nice and cool, even in hotter weather sometimes in the sun, and just in general, it's stayed cool like you would expect. But let's go ahead and measure it with the iPhone Air and 17 Pro Max. We'll run benchmarks, see what we get, and see what the heat is while we're about halfway through. So that's last time's results. We'll go back, go to benchmarks, and run those, and when it's about halfway through, we'll take a look. Now, I don't have my thermal camera with me, but if we take a look at the hottest point where it typically is, we're at about 30.2 degrees Celsius or so on the 17 Pro Max with 26.2 beta 4. And on the iPhone Air with iOS 26.1, we're at about, well, I saw 32 degrees Celsius or maybe 33 degrees Celsius. In the past, we've seen as hot as 40 degrees, so it seems like it's doing quite well. Benchmarks completed, and we have 3,713 for single core on the iPhone Air with 9,678 for multi-core. On the 17 Pro Max with 26.2 beta 3, we have 3,776 for single core, 9,777 for multi-core. Well within the margin of error, not the best we've seen, but generally pretty good overall. If we take a look at the history overall, you can see that it's gone up or down depending on how many times you run it, but generally better than what we had when we initially ran it. So again, I would expect this to improve once we get to the public version, back to about 10,000 or so. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.2 betas, well, if you're on iOS 26.2 already with beta 1 or beta 2, definitely update, report feedback if you have any issues. But if you're on iOS 26.1 trying to solve some issues, I would probably hold off or at least install the public beta if you want to try it out, but just make sure you have a backup and know that you need a computer to downgrade if you have an issue. But overall, it seems generally stable, but it still has a little ways to go. So I would typically advise waiting to 26.2 RC or release candidate. Now, as far as the overall battery life, well, on iOS 18.7.2, people report all-day battery life that's phenomenal. So lots of great battery life there. However, with iOS 26.1, the results are better than I would have expected. So let's take a look at one of your battery lives. So thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 16e set to 80% battery limit with 100% battery health. This is on iOS 26.1, and you'll see he had 7 hours, 56 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 17 minutes of screen off time, and used 87% of his battery. Pretty great battery life overall, and I'm seeing that from many of you. In fact, 64% of those using iOS 26.1 report good battery life. Only 37% or so reported good battery life last week, so it seems like an improvement week over week. When it comes to iOS 26.2 beta 3, well, I've been using it full time on the 17 Pro Max, and if we take a look at battery, we'll go to battery health. Under battery health, you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 19 cycles. You can see more details here on Coconut Battery, and if we take a look at overall usage, well, you'll see I actually have good bars while I'm on vacation. So you'll see battery usage. Yesterday, I used 57% of the battery with 3 hours and 26 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 52 minutes of screen idle time. The day before, not so much battery, but overall it's been pretty good. Today, almost 2 hours, and I've only used 18%. So it's increasingly gotten better day after day. So it seems like it's getting much, much better. But it's definitely better for me than iOS 26 or 26.1 was. When it comes to the overall experience and what you had to say, let's take a look at some of your comments. Chris Palmer, 4983, said, I've been using iOS 26.1 on my iPhone 17 Pro. Battery life has been great. The standby battery drain has been superb as well. I easily get all-day battery life with moderate use. Overall, performance has been smooth and snappy. No major glitches that come to mind. I follow the beta reviews, however, I try and steer clear of them until the RC or public release. Paul Evers 3538 says, I'm currently running iOS 26.1 on my iPhone 14, and the experience has been quite enjoyable. I'm enjoying the liquid glass and everything about it. Yes, it's not as easy to use as iOS 18, but it's very convenient. Buggy says, I've been using iOS 26.1 on my 15 Pro, and I've experienced pretty much most of the bugs people have mentioned here. Wallpaper dimming, keyboard mistypes, liquid glass glitches at times. Something that happened recently was when swiping from the app library back to the home screen and then opening Spotlight, it triggers camera privacy light indicators in Dynamic Island. No idea why, hoping for better future versions. Ricardo Ibarra 6455 says, 16 Pro Max 26.2 Beta 3. Overall stable, once in a while, switching between screens, there's lag. Battery life is great, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours solid of on-screen time with brightness set to 50 to 60%. Minimal to non-existent phone heating while charging. The YouTube app is glitchy with history thumbnails showing repetitive thumbnails all across. Unless clicking on all history, only then does it show correctly. It's super annoying and frustrating considering how easy it should be to fix. However, I think that's a YouTube issue. Charlie H. Q7U says, I'm on iOS 26.2 Beta 3 on my iPhone 13, and so far the performance is decent. It did get quite hot when I first updated to it, but after letting it settle, it's been fine. I do notice occasional stuttering, but nothing too bad. Currently, I think iOS 26.1 is a better software version, and people who are on it should not update to the betas until the RC or public release, just to be on the safe side. Scott Hagel 3254 says, my iPhone 12 Pro is running great on iOS 26.2 Beta 3. I only have two minor issues at this point. In the Photos app, I cannot reorder the collections. Battery life is somewhat less than iOS 18.7.2. Overall, it looks like iOS 26.2 is about ready to release. Now, iOS 18.7.2 is unbeatable. iOS 18.7.2 is still regarded as the perfect iOS version available now. It's stable, has had no major bugs, and just works like Apple was well known for many years. It will remain the benchmark against which all new versions of iOS 26 will be measured until they improve. When it comes to iOS 26.1, well, it's beautifully buggy. It's definitely better than the initial release of iOS 26, but it's become very laggy for many over time. It's introduced more customization and made liquid glass better if you do like liquid glass, but it also has odd bugs, connectivity issues, and poor performance for many over time as well. However, it did improve battery for many, especially on iPhone 16 and 17 models, and it's probably what iOS 26 should have been minus a few of the lags. But it needs an update soon to make iOS feel like what many have come to expect from iPhone in the past. With iOS 26.2 Beta 3, well, it's stabilizing. Many users are quite happy with iOS 26.2 so far, with battery improvements over iOS 26.1 and smoothness improvements in general. It's less glitchy so far and also introduces more liquid glass features many have been asking for with customization. While it's not perfect by any means, it introduces a few new bugs here and there. It seems by the time it's released, it should be a vast improvement over what we've had so far. So hopefully we see that this year, and again with iOS 27, we expect it to maybe be a huge refinement year, and I really hope that's the case. But sadly, again, for those that want the best experience of iOS, there's no way to downgrade if you didn't already have iOS 18 on your device already. So that would be a great thing to see in the future, but I don't think it's coming anytime soon. So that's everything with iOS 26.1 and iOS 26.2 Beta 3. Hopefully we'll see iOS 26.2 RC this coming week, but we could see Beta 4. Either way, I'm looking most forward to iOS 27 if it truly is a stability update like Snow Leopard was. But let me know if you think Apple will do that or not, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.